Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lucha Rewatch, episode 8. We got done watching episodes 29 through 32 of Lucha Underground Season 1. I am so happy that this is the second week in a row now that we know that we're getting a Season 2. It feels amazing. The good news is Lucha Underground Season 2. The bad news is it's probably not happening until January. The even better news is we're not going to really delve out all of the information right now. But even though the original plan was for Lucha Rewatch to fill the time in between Ultima Lucha and Lucha Season 2, because Lucha Season 2 got moved back from what we were assuming was going to be a late October date to what's most likely now going to be a January date, we do have another Lucha Underground based series planned for after Lucha Rewatch. So boom, dropping that bomb right now. What do you think, John?
I am so excited for it, dude. What you and I have talked about, which I will keep under wraps. I don't even know where the key is. Unlock this mouth. But, what we've been talking about, I think it's going to be so much fun, so engaging for everybody. Lucha Underground is one of the most revolutionary products that you and I have come across. I mean, let's be honest here, ever. And I'm just
Let me
glad
just
that
put it this way, John.
yeah.
Lucha Rewatch is a show designed for people that have already watched Lucha Underground, right?
Yeah.
I would say our next series is a show specifically designed for people that are completely unfamiliar with the product and want to jump into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would completely agree with that.
All
And
right.
I'm just glad that the conversation is still going. And especially when you consider this batch of episodes that we're about to, do Lucha Underground Rewatch with, it just shows like it doesn't get any better than this show.
Yeah.
So I'm just really excited about it.
All right. That being said, let's hop right into the episodes that we started talking about here. Episode 29, we start things off with Chavo Guerrero and Black Lotus. Of course, Black Lotus is arriving, I believe, at the temple, and Chavo tells her to get revenge in the ring where everyone can see. And he also does make a note that he and specifically the Guerreros in general hate the Cuetos as much as she does.
It's very interesting because I think this whole story, it doesn't insult your intelligence. I think it expects you to have a familiarity with the Guerrero family, and I like that because I think you take that familiarity and you're like, well, is he telling the truth about this feud between the Guerreros and the Cuetos? If so, what is it? Is there something more mischievous? Is there an ulterior motive? But I like how he manipulates Black Lotus's hatred, like her thirst for vengeance, and saying, no, no, if you want to do this, you want to do this in front of everybody. You really want to demonstrate your superiority on the grandest scale possible. So I really like that segment, if for no other reason, just like its psychological value with Chavo as a character and his ability to manipulate and, emotionally coerce in a certain way. So yeah, good stuff.
Absolutely. So then we get back to the temple itself, and we start things off. Obviously, every episode of Lucha Underground starts with the announcers kind of filling us in on what happened last week, what's going to happen this week, that kind of stuff. But the actual action begins with Johnny Mundo versus Aerostar, and more specifically, Johnny Rudo versus
Oh.
Aerostar.
Ashton, I'm hoping before season 2 starts, I'll have to see where I am financially, but I think I would love to get a Johnny Rudo t-shirt in support of his second season. But yeah, this is his first match working Rudo in years, just in general, not even Lucha Underground, but just in pro wrestling. And it was great. I love the ground and pound style, the more MMA influenced style in this match. He kept the high flying to a minimum. And I think, as we said on the Lucha Underground TwitWow of this episode, if
Yeah.
I had one nitpick, and I
He's a new
haven't
finisher.
forgotten, he needs a new finisher.
And
because
even to this day, he still doesn't have a new finisher. He's still using the end of the world, and it's just so fun. It's just hard to boo somebody when they do a ridiculous corkscrew moonsault off the rope.
Yeah, I agree with you. And obviously, of course, because of my bias, I'm able to get past it. But here, I like to even put my bias aside and look at things critically and
Well, I
objectively.
mean,
And he does need to
you would
change.
cheer for him if he didn't do any flashy moves at all.
Exactly. And I did here. Like I loved what he was about here. I loved the announcers too. I got to give credit to commentary really harping on the transformation. I love the line, I think it was Stryker, saying, well, Johnny Mundo's, he's got a shiner on his eye because he's been getting in more fights. He's just had this whole change in demeanor. Yeah, I really enjoyed this match as a Johnny Mundo fan. It was getting back to where I really feel like he can thrive. And Aerostar put up a valiant fight. You know, he looked like that babyface fighting from underneath, which is a weird phrase to use given that Johnny isn't like this hulking behemoth. But the experience advantage was too much, and he gets the win. So, Ashton, what did you think about this match? What did you think about this just style and approach of Johnny Rudo?
Oh, I told you during our actual Twit Wow of this episode that I loved the new style. I loved that he was slowing things down rather than speeding them up. And I think that it really kind of comes back to the Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, John Hennigan, whatever you want to call it, interview that he had with Stone Cold Steve Austin, where he said, it's really simple, at least on the indies or on smaller company, on a smaller scale. If you're a babyface, you give the fans what they want, and if you're a heel, you either give them what they don't want, or you just don't give them what they want, or you take away from them what they want. And this is pretty much what he did. Everything that people love about Johnny Mundo is he's fun to watch in the ring. He's exciting. He's got these flashy moves and stuff, and he did very few of those. And he slowed it down, and he turned it into more of an I want to win this match style rather than an I want to impress the fans style.
See, and that's why I want him to take it even further, get rid of the end of the world, get rid of the flash kick, like, take away all of it, you know, like, really commit. And it's not that he was doing a horrible job for the remainder of the season as Johnny Rudo with what he was doing. And I feel like when we talk about the last episode and what he did there, that's really illuminated there. But, like, man, if he could just smooth out those edges, it would be perfect. So, yeah, big fan of this match. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, man. All right. Well, up next, we had a Vampiro sit-down interview, this time with Sexy Star. This is basically just kind of going over her whole feud with Pentagon Jr., what he did to wrong her, what she's going to try and do to get revenge, that kind of stuff.
Right. Good interview. Highlighted the strength of Sexy Star as a character. Like, oh, you're an inspiration to women, and this, that, and the other. And then, Vampiro's like, well, do you fear Pentagon? And it's just like, no, I'm going to settle my beef with him. So it was a pretty straightforward interview segment. Really, again, highlighted Sexy Star in this feud. And then it lays the ground for next week because we know that they're having this submission match. So good stuff. I think it accomplished everything it needed to.
Absolutely. Up next, though, we had our second match of the night. And John, I really, really want to hear your opinion on this match because I've said multiple times I think this is a candidate for underrated match of the year. Hernandez versus Prince Puma for the Lucha Underground Championship.
Yeah, you are so into this match, and I love that. Like, I was so excited for this rewatch because I knew your enthusiasm for this match. And it's great, man. I agree with you on all points. I mean, look, this is why I was so disheartened when it came out that Hernandez was just a one-season character because I watched him in TNA. And the only other time he was this compelling to me was, ironically enough, when he was running with Conan and Homicide as part of heel LAX.
Yeah.
Because I just love the whole vibe of that gimmick. And I think I appreciate it even more now, given how my opinions have changed on certain things. But you've got this guy who just knows how big he is, knows how strong he is, and just flaunts it in your face in the best possible way. I loved all the offense he had to eat from Puma. I love that Puma really had to fight, And what I love about Lucha Underground, too, even with guys as small as Mascarita Sagrada or people of like a high-flying bent like Prince Puma, the fighting to me never really becomes hokey. It never really becomes cheesy. It always feels like they are fighting to survive. They are really scratching and clawing. And man, was that illuminated here, because when Prince Puma eats offense, like a border toss into the ring apron, and you see his body just go limp, and just like he's out. Or when you see like Hernandez, he throws him up into the fan barrier, and then he scales it, and he does this ridiculous dive off of there, just to kind of, disorient Hernandez a little bit. Like, it's such a great contrast, and this was actually one of Prince Puma's best title defenses, without question.
Yeah, I feel like Prince Puma's best title defense was the main event of Ultima Lucha 2 against Muertes, but I feel like this was the second best behind that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, and this is coming from, I mean, the way I'd rank his title defenses personally, I'd probably say I'd agree with you about Ultima Lucha in terms of his quality of title defenses. Hernandez second, All Night Long third, for me.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. And, it's crazy. Like, Hernandez really stepped up. This was quality work. And Prince Puma winning, the way that he did, like, this is what made him such a quality champion in the first season, was defenses like this. So your enthusiasm for this match, I echo it, and I hope you and I coming together being enthusiastic, even if people may have watched this once, but it may have been one of those matches that you're a little hazy on, go back, rewatch it, and really appreciate the heel work of Hernandez in particular for me. Because
Well, I mean, the heel work of Hernandez, and it takes two to tango, so I'm also going to toss in there the selling of Prince Puma. Oh,
yes,
my God.
that's the trait in particular, Ashton, is the selling. Because Prince Puma, don't get me wrong, his comebacks are fantastic, but a comeback is only as good as the desperation you convey in the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, dude. How crazy is it? And this might be a controversial opinion, I don't know, but how crazy is it that I feel like Prince Puma is better at emitting emotion with a mask than Ricochet is without one?
I know, dude. You know what it could be, though, to be fair? Maybe Ricochet as a performer in that aspect is a bit shyer and maybe he doesn't really know. I think when you have a mask, maybe it gives you a sense of, like, security, like, okay, I have a bit more of
I don't know what it
anonymous
is. I
nature
don't
here.
know if it's some kind of a psychological thing like you're talking about, but whatever it is, to me, I get more invested, and not just storyline wise, but actually in the context of the match. I get more invested in Prince Puma as a character, as a sympathetic character and a babyface than I ever do in Ricochet matches.
And I would agree because really paying attention to this match, there were certain moments like Hernandez would kick out and Puma would just have this disgruntled look on his face, which is weird to say again because he's wearing a mask, but he
Yeah.
would communicate that frustration. Or he'd pound the mat and just think, what do I have to do to beat this guy? Like,
Yeah.
what is it? By the way, speaking of that, I gotta give Hernandez credit too because when he got that one near fall on Puma,
Yes!
and
The face!
the eyes just bugging out of the head.
Yes.
This match, you know what this match is, and I try and I'm gonna be very careful with my wording here because I don't want to make it seem like I'm overly praising it, though I don't think that's even possible
I
to do
think
with
I
a match
might
this
have an
good.
idea of where you're going with this, and I think I agree with you, but I want
But
to hear what you want to say.
I think this match is almost like a good course in like alternative performance art because the way they're able to emote and really perform on that level. This is why we have problems, I think. Well, part of the problem with the Eva Marie's and other performers like her in the world because anybody can do moves, but these guys really make the moves matter.
Oh my God, thank you. Yes.
And that's just it. Like, anybody can do a move, but when you do a move and you know it didn't put the guy away, it's the pain and the desperation you sell of maybe I'm not good enough. Or maybe on
Yes.
this night, this man is better than I am. That's what
Okay.
makes this match so
I
good.
like where you went with it, but that wasn't necessarily the exact thought I had.
What was the exact thought you had?
My thought is this match, the way that they pulled it off and the story that they told in this match is a main event in any promotion in the world. This
Yeah,
match could be a main event of WrestleMania if it was built the exact same way in WWE as it was in Lucha Underground. This match could be a main event in New Japan if they wanted it to be. This match was awesome because not just because oh my god these guys are killing each other, this is amazing, but because of the story that they told, because it's just this story of this big scary like 6'3" 285-pound monster wanting to prove that he is the best, going against this underdog champion that is really just the definition of a scrappy sympathetic underdog fighting from underneath, and they played their roles so well. I love the more we talk about it, the more I like the match for some reason.
I do too. No, I'm right there with you. I'm picking up everything you're laying down. I'm telling you.
And you know what the great thing is though, John?
Yeah.
This is a main event anywhere in the world, and yet it was only the semi-main event of this because the main event was the kind of main event that would only be a main event in Lucha Underground.
Precisely. Like, everything about this was so freaking good. Honestly, I mean, you know that I have a few friends that I maintain, like, from my Force One days when I was able to go to the events and stuff. And I'll hear guys, like, complain about the indie workers of today, whether from, like, a conditioning standpoint or how they do matches. I think any aspiring wrestler should go back and watch this match
Yeah.
because you'll really learn the difference between doing moves and just really selling the moves on that extra level. I'm not even talking from a physical
The
standpoint,
difference
but
between
really, yeah.
being a wrestler and being a worker.
There you go. Perfect. Let's move on because it's not going to get any better than that. So what happened after this?
Mil Muertes versus Phoenix in a death match. I mean,
Oh
what
my
do you want from me,
God.
John? This match was insanity.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, really, it wasn't even that great of a match. It just so happens that Mil Muertes put Phoenix through a building.
And see, Ashton, like I think in that similar vein, I don't know if there is a connection here. I'm gonna try. Please don't falter. Please don't drop the ball.
Okay.
But like in what we were talking about with Prince Puma and Hernandez, like I really like this match because it just had a different feel. Like its atmosphere was really working for it. They really did give us a new Mil Muertes.
Yeah.
I feel like so often when WWE's like, oh, this is a new Kane or this is a new so and so. Not really. I mean, the best.
Post John Cena lost Bray Wyatt. Thank you, John Cena. You have released me and allowed me to become what I was always truly meant to be. Proceeds to not change in any way whatsoever.
Exactly. Thank you. That's why one of the best things WWE is going right now is Braun Strowman, and I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah,
but,
the other shoe dropping is going to be him losing to John Cena.
Yeah, exactly.
It happens to everyone, John. But the difference is, I mean, even if you want to say, and I don't necessarily agree with this stance, but even if you want to say that Prince Puma is the John Cena of Lucha Underground, that isn't even a true stance to say for him because he's lost quite a few matches this season.
And dude, with the way they built him up, look at the payoff for his particular build-up, which we'll get to that when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
But as far as Mil Muertes, what I like about this, though, dude, Lucha Underground, can I just say, like, it's been on my mind a lot today, and I was really excited to record with you because there's something I got to say about Lucha Underground. Why are these guys so... It's not even fair. It's not even fair how good they are at walking the line between making just everybody look good. Because I feel like they make Mil Muertes look fantastic and just unstoppable, but not at the sacrifice of Phoenix. Now, I know what you guys might be thinking. The guy got powerbombed through a building. Phoenix still put up a fight. He didn't go down like a punk. Like,
well, and here's my thing, John. He got put through a building.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, immediately, the fact that he even is still breathing after that makes him an impressive human being. But then not only did he survive, which, like I said, was impressive, but by the end of the season, he ended up being a champion, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm sure we could make our jokes like, oh, for John Cena, that would have only been a near fall. But, like...
Yeah, you're freaking right it would have been. The dude got DDT'd on concrete, and it was a near fall.
But,
and he still made the comeback 2-1.
And see, though, like, I love with Phoenix, though, that he is vulnerable enough that we maintain that sympathy for him, but he is that fighter. He is that guy, and I love how they portray him as a fighter because he's the man of 1,000 lives, so it makes sense. But Muertes just mows him down. So in terms of like moves and this and that, I mean, yeah, it's not the best matchup that Lucha Underground's had, but in terms of what it lays the groundwork for, in terms of a reintroduction of Mil Muertes, in terms of again that atmosphere. Man, this was so good because they're like, oh, it's a new Mil Muertes, and boy, did they deliver in spades. Love this match, dude, just for everything that they gave us. So this was a lot of fun.
Definitely, yeah. This episode of Lucha Underground, I think, was one of my favorite episodes of the first 39 that we saw.
Yeah, without question, dude. This is magnificent.
Yeah. So the closing, and this is another reason why too, because the closing cinematic was Dario Cueto introducing the crew, well, I guess reintroducing the crew to Matanza, and then, Mr. Cisco and Cortez Castro specifically giving Bale a little bit closer of a look at Matanza.
Eat that face! And yeah, it was horrible. For Bale, that is. For me, it was just pure enjoyment and just absolutely magnificent.
Who even likes Bale?
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you who. Matanza, in terms of his taste, got that protein intake.
Salty.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you what. Yeah, this was enjoyable. I loved it. I love that Cueto is willing to see people sacrifice for his own personal pleasure and maintaining his power structure. This is just so good, so compelling. And I think I love, because I think you said it came from Cortez Castro. I remember you were talking to me after the show, and you shared with me a tweet from Castro where he said, well, I think today went well.
Yeah.
And it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
So great stuff, man. I love this.
And I love too that like the theme of this episode is kind of, it's almost like the whole theme of the episode is just obstacles. It's setting up obstacles and trying to get the audience or the crowd or whatever you want to call them to try and figure out who's going to be able to overcome these obstacles. Because
Right.
first of all, Johnny Mundo's a heel now, and he is on a tear, and he is not as concerned with really pleasing the crowd. He wants to win now. So he's got this new mindset. Who's going to be able to bring him back down to earth, right?
Right.
Well, then we've got Hernandez, and Hernandez is also a monster. And even though Prince Puma managed to pull out the win, Prince Puma is the best that Lucha Underground has to offer. If you want proof of that, look on his shoulder.
Right, exactly.
So then we introduce this new version of Mil Muertes, who is like the monsteriest of the monsters that we've seen so far. And he puts Phoenix through a table. Oh, that's child's play. Through a building and destroys him and gets the big win in the death match. And you're wondering, oh my God, who is possibly going to be able to overcome Mil Muertes? And then to close the night out, Matanza eats Bale's face off.
That's actually, I love that you were able to ascertain a theme from this episode, because I don't even know if we had.
They just kept on upping the ante, from Johnny Mundo being a little bit rougher than usual on Aerostar to Hernandez pretty much physically dominating Prince Puma, to Mil Muertes literally physically dominating Phoenix, to Matanza eating a man's face.
I love that you made that connection, dude. I love everything about your thought process just now, and I'm not even going to add anything onto it. We can move on to the next episode.
The next episode, episode 30, starts things out with Chavo Guerrero again with Chavo. How is he such a major character in this season? But anyway, we start things off with Chavo in Cueto's office, telling him about El Dragon Azteca's deal to erase his debt if he protects Black Lotus with his life. And he makes the point that Guerreros are only truly loyal to the highest bidder, and Cueto wants him to basically deliver Black Lotus's head on a silver platter. And Chavo tells him that he wants round-the-clock protection from Mexico. And Cueto's just like, good, now that we got that done, why don't you tell me what you really want? And we would eventually find out that he wants a no disqualification match with Blue Demon Jr. and a Lucha Underground title match, but we're not quite up to that last part yet.
No, we're not. I really enjoyed this segment. I think one of my favorite parts, for whatever reason, was when Cueto starts taking out the cash, and Chavo pretty much makes him know, like, I don't want your money. And I think Cueto was almost relieved, like, oh my God, a segment where I actually don't get robbed, or I don't lose money. That's gotta be refreshing. But yeah, really just shows that Guerreros are still sneaky, they're still dastardly, and Chavo, who may have seemed well-intentioned at first, is really just going into business for himself. So I really love that, because I think that just adds the sympathy to Black Lotus, and it really just makes Chavo seem like, man, whoever's going to personify Mexico for Chavo, I hope they really take a good pound of his flesh, so to speak. So this is great stuff.
Absolutely. So then we get our first match of the night, Jack Evans versus Argenis. And Dario Cueto comes out, and it almost feels like a commentary on WWE, because he says, well, Jack Evans, you've only been here for one match and you lost it. And Argenis, nobody really cares about you. So because I don't want my fans to be bored, I'm going to make this match a little more interesting. I love Dario Cueto so much.
I love it too, though, because, like, he's right. I mean, I like Argenis, and I feel like if he was featured more, I would care about him. But, like, because...
and I love Jack Evans, too. So, I mean,
right.
Even though he's not necessarily right in personal senses for us, if you just kind of look at it on the surface, on paper, he's completely right.
And I love how he just does not give a damn about being that visceral to people. Like,
just walking up to these guys and being like, okay, you're boring and you suck. Let's make this more interesting.
Exactly. And so an Aztec medallion gets thrown in the mix, and this is a fun match. Really, to me, I think this is really Jack Evans kind of arriving. I mean, I know he had that great match with Aerostar, but this is like where the momentum really gets going. And dude, I gotta tell you, man, I freaking love Jack Evans. I
He
know you
is
do
so
too.
good. Oh my god. We actually, ladies and gentlemen, we've been catching up on PWG. Still waiting for Bola, but they just came out with a video today on highspots.com that Bola DVDs would be shipping, so hopefully soon. But we just got done a couple days ago watching Three Mendes. And Jack Evans and Angelico versus the Young Bucks. Oh my god.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I love PWG.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I love even more, Lucha Underground, which is the focus here.
Yeah.
And Jack Evans, that
Well, I
pinning
was just saying
combination.
that to focus on how
Right.
good Jack Evans
Oh,
is.
I know, dude. Yeah, I agree with you. Go back, watch Three Mendes, guys. Watch that main event in particular, and just behold
And
the glory that is, yeah, Jack Evans and
and I
Angelico.
mean, speaking of Jack Evans, I can't wait for Bola Night 2 when we get to see him whip out the drunken kung fu
That's gonna be amazing. I mean,
against Angelico of all people too. So
yeah. I mean, you were so into it. You wanted an entire character like inspired by that.
yeah,
So I can't wait. But yeah, dude, everything about this match was great. I mean, Jack Evans did some nice variations of kicks and stuff, some great maneuvering. Arhennis had some great stuff too. He had a nice like electric chair drop kind of maneuver into like a pinning attempt. That was pretty cool. But
another
Jack,
one was Evans went for a Hurricane Rana and Arhennis just dropped down into a power bomb. I loved that.
that was great because it showed like a power that we may not have given Arhennis credit for
I'm telling. That's why
originally.
I always compare Arhennis to Hunico because that's stuff that he does too. Like he is a luchador and he can do the luchador moves, but if you try and go full on luchador on him, he's gonna drop you on your face or your neck or your back, and it's not gonna feel good.
No, no, it is not. But you know what else doesn't feel good is defeat, which Arhennis had to taste after Jack Evans's
What a
brilliant
transition!
after Jack Evans's brilliant backsliding bridge. I mean, you took the first time we saw this. You gave the best description of this move, and I'm going to use it here. I mean, you said, who could possibly kick out of that? Now, unfortunately, we did see somebody kick out of that, if I remember correctly,
A few
later on,
people actually.
which was a bit frustrating to be honest, because this has got to be, and I've seen Cesaro do some cool pinning combinations recently, Ashton, but this pin by Jack Evans has got to be one of the most unique and on the surface, one of the most effective looking pins I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like, it's
You know what it
brilliant.
really comes down to though, John, is I am not a fan of really cool looking pinfalls and then people kicking out of them because there are some pinfalls like this one where you know that the only way the person kicks out is if the person doing the move loosens up.
Exactly. And you know what, Ashton? I'm glad you said that because you know we've been talking about like the booking of a heel and stuff with Johnny Mundo. How great is it for a heel Jack Evans if they would have built this pin up? Because he's not even beating you with a high impact finisher or something flashy. No, he's just out maneuvering you and out thinking you. Like he's just getting away with it because he's got you caught in this pinning combination. If I had to give one nitpick of just on a character basis of season one, I wish they would have built up this pin from Jack Evans because I feel like the first kick out could have been something more significant than what it was. And I think it would have been a great way to really give heat to Evans because again, it's not flashy or anything. It's nice looking, but it's not high impact or anything. You just get caught. And yeah, he could just brag about that. I don't know. I feel like they kind of missed an opportunity here.
Yeah,
Again, small gripe, but man, is it beautiful. And I'm so glad I got the win for him here.
definitely, absolutely. And he got the first Aztec medallion, so no one else can say that they had the first. Even if he wasn't the first Gift of the Gods champion, at least he can say that he won the first ever Aztec medallion.
Well, wait, didn't Phoenix win the first Aztec medallion, or was that later on? Because I thought they had that big seven-way match or whatever, and Phoenix won. I thought we saw that episode already, where like all the bodies were.
Oh yeah, you're right. Dang it, never mind. Phoenix gets all the glory.
There you go. Sorry, man, but I had to keep everything
Thank you
straight in my
though.
head.
I'm glad you're keeping my facts straight.
Yeah, so Jack Evans received the second
The
Aztec
second,
medallion.
yeah.
Maybe the story of Jack Evans' life always being number two. We'll see.
Hey,
Maybe
don't
things are
call
gonna.
Jack Evans a piece of shit. That's not very nice.
I know. He's wonderful. I love Jack Evans.
You know who might be a little bit of a piece of shit though, John, is Delavar Davari, who up
Oh,
next is always looking for a little bit more gold. So he convinced Dario Cueto to give him a trios title shot with the Mac or with Big Rick, and then they need a third partner who might be the Mac, but Brian Cage might also have something to say about that.
I just, I know that the character of Delvar Davari isn't like trying to be a commentary, but I can't help but laugh when I see some of the things that he's involved in because, like,
What if he is though?
maybe he is because he's like so into this beatdown that it's pretty much sending the message to me like, yeah, I'm so wealthy, I've lost all sense of basic human decency. And just like seeing one man beat the shit out of another man and smiling about it like, oh, welcome to the team, because Cage whoops Mac's ass. And I remember from our original 2-hour review, you and I were in love with the cinematic aspect of this
And I
beatdown.
still am, because I feel
Yeah,
like, sure, there are backstage beatdowns, but how many backstage beatdowns are filmed like movie fights?
exactly. And see, this is what I freaking love about this show. Even in the smallest ways, like the distinctions they make from their, what I'll say, their peers, is unbelievable. Because WWE would never film like a backstage brawl or even an in-ring brawl this way.
Yeah.
Like
It's
they,
so funny this is getting brought up now because we just got done reading an article on, I think it was geek.com or nerd.com. I think it's geek. Yeah, geek.com, about how wrestling isn't TV and you should stop trying to critically compare it to television shows. I think Lucha Underground proves the exact opposite. I think Lucha Underground proves that wrestling can be TV. Wrestling can be critically comparable to contemporary television shows. And I think that scenes like this are what prove that.
Ashton, to me, like, given the conversation you and I had about that piece today, and then really reflecting on Lucha Underground, I think Lucha Underground, to try and compact it in a phrase, was the necessary evolution of pro wrestling.
Oh,
Because,
definitely. I've
yeah,
already
yeah,
praised Lucha Underground before because they take everything that makes them different from sports and crank it up to 11, and then they take everything that makes them different from television shows and crank that up to 11.
yeah.
They're perfect. They find the perfect balance between storytelling. Basically, let me just put it this way: they find the perfect way to separate themselves from both sports and television, while also emphasizing everything about them that's great about sports and television.
I think what we're looking at here in just this first season, and again, just bringing it back to this fight scene, which was done so differently from anywhere else I've seen, we're going to look back on this first season and all subsequent seasons, which I can say because they've been confirmed for a second season, and it's a happy time for everybody, that this is a show that's just ahead of its time right now because nobody else is doing this. They're breaking the ground on this kind of stuff. And when Cage just beats down the Mac and Del is like, whoa, welcome to the team, such as Johnny Walker, whatever. And
Yeah.
then Big Rick's just kind of looking at Mac. Like, it's a great scene in a theatrical sense because A, the way it's filmed, and then B, you kind of wonder, well, is there a struggle going on with Rick? And, we later find out, no, there wasn't because he really is loyal to the dollar. Like, do I help my family or not? And I feel like everybody sells everything exactly how they're supposed to. This was magnificent. This was brilliantly shot and executed, and I just really appreciate that this exists. So, good stuff.
Exactly. All right. So up next was another really cool backstage cinematic fight scene. Chavo Guerrero tells Black Lotus that Cueto's giving her a match tonight, ends up trying to turn on her, and as he's throwing his fist, she realizes it and makes his fist eat locker door.
I love it. I loved everything about this so much. The two scenes, again, like you said, back to back, we really got to see this technique
Mm-hmm.
in action.
And it
And
was
it
even
just,
better here because it was more like kung fu based, like frickin' Black Lotus blocking all of Chavo's punches. Like I felt like I was watching a Dragon Ball Z fight unfold in real life.
dude, it's amazing. I mean, I've never personally watched the Kill Bill movies, but that's a lot of comparisons that I hear,
Yeah.
things of that
From what
nature.
I understand, the Black Lotus character was actually inspired by Kill Bill.
And that makes all the sense in the world to me when you see something like this. And it makes her, and this is what I love about characters like Black Lotus, because she hasn't even stepped foot in a ring.
Yep.
And I feel like, well, maybe that opinion's changed given how everything ended, but we'll get to that. But say in this context, everything's stopped right now. She's already such a likable baby face because she's got this interesting story and she kicks ass. And she hasn't even stepped foot in a ring yet. I feel like with so many promotions where it's so dependent on how good your in-ring work is and how good your ability is to cut a promo, Lucha Underground has found ways to kind of circumvent that and kind of up the ante in their own way. And nowhere do I feel like that's epitomized more than Black Lotus. This was brilliantly done. She takes out Chavo, but the crew members, Mr. Cisco and Cortez Castro, they catch up to her. She takes them out as well. But then Chavo comes from behind, I think, with like a bat, presumably smashes her either in the face or in the side or whatever, just incapacitates her.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's it. But man, was this so cool. I love this.
Yeah, definitely. This and the Mac beatdown by Cage were two. I love that they were back to back too, because it was really in your face with the first one, and then the second one you almost knew what to expect, and it still upped the ante, because I think that this was a better scene than the first one.
I would completely agree with that assessment. Absolutely.
Yeah, man, Lucha Underground just so almost too good, I would say.
I know. Yeah, it's not fair, man. It's not fair.
So up next, speaking of Delavar Davari, we get our 6-man tag between him, Cage, and Big Rick taking on Team Sitcom for the trios titles. This was a solid match, but I think that the two big underlying stories here are Son of Havoc and Angelico having this kind of testosterone-driven competition to see who could do the best in the match. Ivelisse kind of turning her back on them and being like, okay, fine, if you don't want me to be in the match, I won't be in the match, and just chilling out with the fans while yelling instructions. And then the second underlying story is Tejano going after Davari again.
Yes. And what I really liked about this match, and really the only point I'm going to touch on from an in-ring standpoint, they find a way to make Ivelisse useful again, because she gets on the apron, she starts mouthing off to the opposition like, hey, you want to fight, fight me. Delavar Davari, he starts like putting his hands on her and stuff, but that distracts like Big Rick. I mean, Cage is, I think, already taken out by Angelico, he gets taken out by Angelico after, because then Big Rick gets clonked in the head by Tejano, and then Delavar Davari is just like, whatever. And so everybody gets taken out because Ivelisse set that in motion. She created the opening for Tejano to interfere, which allowed Team Sitcom to capitalize and retain their championships after Son of Havoc gets the winning pin. So I like how, even with the injury, Lucha Underground did such a brilliant job, and you'll see this throughout the remainder of the season, of keeping Ivelisse relevant, of keeping her at the forefront, not letting her get lost in the shuffle despite an injury. I really commend them for that, because I think that takes a higher level of writing, working with an injured player. And I think they did really well in the circumstance. So good stuff.
Absolutely. So after the match itself, which I feel like we should point out that Team Sitcom retained because of Tejano's interference.
Right.
The crew, we get backstage, the crew brings Black Lotus to Cueto, and really it's just kind of like almost like a bounty hunter delivery, it almost feels like, because they're just like, here she is, what are you going to do with her? And Cueto's just like, well, I have a spot for her right across from my brother so he never gets lonely again. And it's just like, oh my god, these people are psychopaths.
Yeah, that is sick. I love it, though. I love that they really know how to make Cueto a villain. Like, he really wants it to hurt her, and I like that. I just love everything about this. Such a great and compelling character.
Absolutely. So then we get our main event of the evening, Pentagon Jr. versus Sexy Star in a submission match. And going into this match, I had this weird, like, almost like a misaligned hindsight where I was like, oh my god, does Sexy Star seriously beat him in this match? And she doesn't. She doesn't. Pentagon, before the match even starts, Pentagon cuts a promo talking about how he's going to break her and sacrifice her to his master, and she attacks him during his promo. But it really doesn't take too long for this to become a very competitive match. But Superfly comes out, and I forgot that this was this match that this happened on. Superfly comes out and attacks Sexy Star, and then Pentagon wins with a modified surfboard.
Yeah. I mean, this is a really fun match. I like the submissions that Sexy Star broke out, and they kind of played up well. She may not be like that well versed, but she's trying to get him to tap out. Some of the submissions that Pentagon did looked absolutely brutal. And then, of course, the infamous Superfly run in where you and I were kind of laughing because Sexy Star was so happy to see him, not putting two and two together, like, hey, why are you this close to cheer me on? Hey, what are you doing? And then, like, the turn. And then, the surfboard looked great. So I feel like they did a great job protecting Sexy Star, giving Pentagon Jr. this win, which I feel like he really did need. And then, of course, the post-match, which, I mean, Ashton, why don't you take us away on that and tell us what you thought of it?
Well, I mean, it's very interesting because this kind of helped me almost to kind of piece together the Vampiro character. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say so.
Because after the match, Pentagon goes to break Sexy's arm. Vampiro pushes him off of her, and then Pentagon kind of steps to him, but Vamp just kind of backs down, and then we get this mirror scene. And I kind of had a moment of clarity. I feel like Vampiro and Ian Hodgkinson are two different people,
Yeah.
or at least two different entities. And the person that was acting tonight and the person that's been trying to stop Pentagon from breaking like Sexy Star's arm, that's been Ian Hodgkinson, right?
Right.
And then I feel like the match that we got between these two at Ultima Lucha, I feel like it was Pentagon almost purging Vampiro of Ian Hodgkinson's sort of human nature.
Yeah.
So that
So,
by the end
yeah.
of that match, when Pentagon breaks his arm and Vampiro kind of comes out and says, Pentagon! And then he's talking about how he's his master, that's Vampiro, but Ian Hodgkinson no longer exists because Pentagon beat him and then broke his arm, and that was like the ultimate sacrifice. He sacrificed Ian Hodgkinson to his master, who was Vampiro.
Right, right. Love it. Love it so much.
So those are kind of the pieces that I put together. It's almost like Ian isn't even aware that Vampiro is Pentagon's master until the very end, and he realizes it too late to stop it from happening.
Dude, that was such a great breakdown. I ain't even going to sully it with my opinion. All right, that's as good as it's going to get. Because, I mean, you know the reservation I had when I first watched this, and what they ended up doing with it blew me out of the water. I told you after they pulled this off, we were having a conversation the other day, and I said this second season, I'm gonna try anyway for 12 reviews. Maybe sometimes I won't always do it, but I mean I'll trust them explicitly. Like I feel like if they wanted to like do something with Matt Stryker, like pull him into something, I know that they can pull it off because what they did with Vampiro was just so great that I'm like, you know what? These guys really can do anything. I mean, they got a cane over, for God's sakes. So I trust their ability to do anything, and this storyline just exemplified that fact because I thought, oh, what are they going to do with Vampiro? He's older, he's this, he's that. Man, it was so good. So, love these guys, love this story, loved your analysis, and I think we can move on.
All right. Let's talk about episode 31 then. The first thing that we see is Drago jumping off the roof of the temple. So, okay.
Yeah, so we know he's here, and we just gotta, put two and two together. Like, why is he here? What's his motivation? So good stuff.
All right. So then let's talk about Vampiro, who apologizes for interfering in the ring last week. You know, it's funny because when he first did this, I was confused. I was like, why would he apologize for saving Sexy Star from getting her arm broken? But now in hindsight, I get it more because he wasn't necessarily doing that. He was apologizing for, as a ring announcer, as a commentator, overstepping his boundary and getting in the ring. Like, you're not supposed to do that. Like, if JBL got in the ring, even if it was for a noble reason, even if it was like Kane's getting ready to choke slam freaking, I don't know, Charlotte or something like that, and JBL would get in the ring and attack Kane, I would totally understand him wanting to apologize for it because the commentators are supposed to be the commentators. They're not supposed to try and get in the ring and try and even if this wasn't what Vampiro was necessarily doing, they're not supposed to try and be the show.
Right, exactly.
So I really didn't understand why he was apologizing the first time we saw this, but now I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I think it set a good tone for the rest of the show. Just thinking like, what's going on with Vampiro? So nice stuff.
Well, and speaking of setting a tone, the first thing that we get on this show is Dario Cueto announcing Ultima Lucha as a thing.
Yep, this is where all the magic happens, people. It says Ultima Lucha is where you're gonna see the best matches, the most amazing fights, and he says, we're gonna determine our main event tonight because there's gonna be a fatal four-way. All people who face Prince Puma for the title. It's gonna be Phoenix versus King Cuerno versus Cage versus Hernandez, and then he says, oh wait. Phoenix was sent to an early grave thanks to Mil Muertes, so I guess it'll just be a triple threat. And then he also talks about, because I want Ultima Lucha to have the best fighters and everything, introduces Blue Demon Jr. And Blue Demon Jr., he comes out in a suit. Then Cueto says, well, just to make sure that you're able to compete at Ultima Lucha, I'm going to need you to have pretty much like a matchup just to see where you kind of are.
Almost
And
like a tune-up match.
yeah, a tune-up match. and you're going to face the guy that you faced on the first episode, the very first match of Lucha Underground, Chavo Guerrero. Chavo comes out with a kendo stick and the crew and all that stuff. And he said, unlike your last match, this is going to be no DQ. And it ends as you would expect it to. Blue Demon's in a suit. Chavo, of course, is dressed to compete, and he has 2 other guys with him. They mow Blue Demon Jr. down. He puts up a little bit of a fight, but not really much. Chavo wins the match after a frog splash, and yeah, that's pretty much him sending a message to Blue Demon, and that's we
that
say
wasn't no. I want to be clear here. That wasn't him sending a message to Blue Demon. That was him sending a message to Mexico.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. And, I like this because for the moment it says, well, is Blue Demon even going to be a part of Ultima Lucha? You sympathize with him, because he's this big legend and he might have just gotten kicked off of the biggest show, of this promotion. So it really sucks for him. But yeah, Chavo getting that heel heat, man. So I really dug it.
Absolutely. So then we get a backstage segment here. Chavo in the prison cell area with Matanza and Black Lotus tells Black Lotus that the whole thing with her, with him kidnapping her and giving her to Cueto, it's all just business. And that he is a guerrero and that she should have learned to expect that from people like him by now. She tells him that he betrayed El Dragon Azteca and that Mexico would come for him. And this was the point when it kind of clicked that, no, he's not worried about Mexico anymore because after what he just did to Blue Demon, Mexico isn't going to have the balls to do anything to him.
Right. And I love that. I love that as a heel, we're going to have to wait now for Chavo's comeuppance to come another way.
Yep.
Because Mexico, again, whoever was going to personify Mexico or whatever, isn't going to deliver. Yep. So I really like that. Great stuff here. Great interplay between him and Black Lotus. Black Lotus just disgusted. You could see it in her face and everything with Chavo and with her situation. I think Chavo even kind of mocked her, said, I hope you like the view, referring to, you're so close to Matanza, you're so close to the object of your hatred, and you can't even do anything. So this is a great segment.
Absolutely. So then Drago shows up backstage in, I'm guessing, a bathroom, because I'm pretty sure Cueto was at a sink, and gets all up in Cueto's face, and he's just asking him, begging him even, to be added to the triple threat tonight. He has had a match against Prince Puma, and Cueto is hesitant at first, but he does eventually agree because Drago does that awesome "let me fight" line. And Cueto agrees, but if Drago loses, not only is he still banned from the temple, but he has to give up his mask.
And that's what being a heel is, folks, because if he had just allowed Drago in because he was intimidated by the fact that Drago might hurt him, I could forgive it, but this made that segment go from, your prototypical heel authority kind of segment with a fired up babyface character into something I think even more special because Cueto always finds a way to incentivize the situation for himself. Like if you lose your mask and I get the violence that you're going to produce beforehand anyway, so I win everything and you get nothing. Yep. So I really like that. This is an awesome segment.
Definitely. Yeah, I loved this. The whole Drago's passion and really shows up in this, I feel like, because that just the "let me fight," like that was, you could feel how angry he was through that line.
Yeah. You could tell like he really wanted to get his hands on Hernandez, and I like that. I like when a babyface allows themselves to be vulnerable, to feel that pain, to feel that anger towards their opposition. Because
almost reminiscent of that Sami Zayn promo when he was freaking out on Neville.
Exactly. And, it makes me want to see Drago kick Hernandez's ass and get that comeuppance. So this is great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So then our second match of the night is also the first match that we see featuring the Disciples of Death.
Oh my god, this is great.
And the opponents are a returning Pimpinela Escarlata, Mascarita Sagrada, and a brand new luchador by the name of Bengala, who would eventually end up being in the 7-way Gift of the Gods match at Ultima Lucha.
I know you and I, Bengala grew on us pretty quickly, like we seem to enjoy what he was about. Really, my thoughts on this match, I feel like I echoed them perfectly on the first viewing when we did Lucha Underground Twitwell for this episode. I loved the commentary about it because at first I was thinking, oh, they're just going to maul this team of misfits, but they didn't. it was actually a competitive matchup, but the justification for it, particularly again by Stryker, it's interesting how Stryker goes from a guy that we're like, man, you really need to work out some of those edges on your commentary, the sexism and things like that, to being a guy that really is a great voice for Lucha Underground
Yeah.
and, really does his job incredibly well. And I say that with all sincerity because I know in his WWE run, I would have a lot of fun at his expense. He's done great work here. And he says, well, it's just like life. You have fun, you party, but then the party's over and death comes for us all. And that's just it. Like, they went along with the gag. They went along with everything. But then when it was time to get serious, when Katrina shut that shit down and said, okay, take care of this, they became a totally different team, and they dominated. And I fell in love from the Disciples of Death right from their debut. Their triple team finisher is epic.
Yeah.
And just like, I loved everything about this team, even their approach to this particular matchup, which was helped again by Stryker's commentary. So this is a really fun match for me personally, dude.
Yeah, I loved this match. And you absolutely loved some of Stryker's commentary points when we first watched this. I remember that specifically from our episode of Twitwow for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he did a great job of assuaging my anger because before I was getting ready, like if we were to do Twitwow without that commentary, of at least making it a nitpick. I mean, it's never so bad that it would be like a full-blown Heat of the Night, but I'm like, come on, this is a really cool-looking gimmick. They're aligned with Katrina and by association Mil Muertes. Maul these guys, but the idea that it was almost like they were playing with their food like a cat does a mouse before they devour it
Yep.
was great. And
And it's
yeah,
crazy too because the way that I would almost call it Shield-esque because they made this match seem like a handicap match. They did such a great job of isolating guys and turning a 3-on-3 match into just a succession of 3-on-1 matches.
exactly. I loved it. I fell in love with that type of booking, with the arrival of the Shield, and I'm glad to see that that's staying alive in other parts because it's just so effective.
Yeah.
And I think it really ups the ante for the fight that you're in because, especially when the Shield would have matches, like, say, against a team or an entity like the Wyatt family or a team that John Cena was on, you'd always wonder, like, can they be combated back or is this just a flawless style of execution? And now that you see the Disciples of Death and how their season ended, becoming the Trios champions, you wonder, like, who is going to put a stop to this team?
Yep.
And, even right down to the last image of Katrina licking Pimpy's face before the death blow.
That to me is like one of the most disturbing images in this entire season, if for no other reason because she legitimately licked his face and he's wearing so freaking much makeup.
Right. I remember you
That
saying
just
that the first day, too.
grosses me
Yeah.
out so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm telling you, Katrina's a succubus, man. I'm calling it. But, like, yeah, Pimpinella gets slammed down. Disciples of Death win. Oh, by the way, quick side note. Again, I feel like I mentioned this in the original review as well. Love the entrance with the lights flickering. I love that so
Yes.
much.
And commentary even addressed it too.
Lucha Underground really understands, dude, that the little things, like, if you don't take care of the little things and you don't even do the little things well, they're going to ultimately corrode the big things, even if you do them right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that so much. Great stuff.
Lucha Underground is the only company that we talk about doing all the little things right that also does all the big things right.
Exactly like, can you do any wrong?
Oh man, up next, and speaking of not being able to do wrong, up next we had Johnny Mundo in Dario Cueto's office, John.
Oh, this segment. I remember poor Ashton. I felt so bad, but I got so excited when I first saw this segment. Like, he had to turn up his volume and stuff because I was marking out so hard. This was the segment where we get all night long because Johnny Mundo, rightfully, I might add, wants to know why he's not in the number one contenders match tonight because he deserves to be in the main event of Ultima Lucha. But then Dario, see, he's learned how to save his skin through one season.
Oh, yeah.
He says, no, you don't understand. I expect you to be champion at Ultima Lucha. See, again, that manipulation. I don't necessarily not believe him when he says that he wants to make things Johnny Mundo work. But the first thing you've got to know about Dario Cueto is it's always going to be his interest first. Everybody else is secondary. And I like that he's like, no, you got it all wrong. Just please sit. Just the sight attention, he knows how to diffuse it. And he pretty much says, we had our beef. We squashed it. I tried to destroy you, but you refused to be destroyed. I don't hold anything against you. And then I know you love this line, Ash. It's like, so you punched me in the face. Who cares? I look great in sunglasses.
Yeah.
I
love that line so much.
And then he talks
Only
about...
Cueto would be shameless enough to say that.
I love it, though. I'm in love. Like, Cueto's amazing. And, he says, but then I got a front row seat to the real Johnny, you putting up Hotel Patron through the window and everything, and I want to see that unleashed on Prince Puma. And then Johnny's just like, well, what do you have in mind? And he says, so you think you're better than Prince Puma? No. I know. I'm better. Goosebumps. And then he says, well, I want to see this new Johnny unleashed on Prince Puma all night long. One match, entire show for the Lucha Underground Championship. Whoever has the most pinfalls wins. Mundo says, Dario, you may have been the best boss I've ever had. Dario's like, to new beginnings. But then Mundo gets up and he's like, no, to a new champion. And then they shake on it. And I'm like, oh, my yes. All of my yes.
I love that 9 times out of 10 when we go over a segment, if you try and quote anything from it, I always have it written down and I have to correct you. But in this case, this segment word for word.
Dude, when this was first announced, I went back and I watched this segment to build the hype at least 30 times.
I believe it. I believe it, man. I completely believe it. That's hilarious. Oh my God.
I was so stoked for this. Johnny Rudo for freaking life. But yeah, nothing else to say about it, man. But in all seriousness, it was a great way, again, to build up that anticipation. It's the race to the Ultima Lucha main event. And notice the word I used there, race. I feel like in WWE, it's pretty much, I don't want to say a foregone conclusion, but there's not really much of a competition there. But I feel like there should be, right? Because it's WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year. If you don't want to be the main event on that show in the kayfabe sense, why are you here? And I love that Lucha Underground gets that about Ultima Lucha. It's like, I don't care if you win a battle royal, if you win 5 matches, if you win 10 matches, your spot is always going to be at stake. And if you really want it, you've got to be the best here. I freaking love that shit, man. Wow. I love it. Because it adds to the prestige, right? Because you realize whatever the final main event is, you know that those guys really fought to get there. And I'm in love. Just, again, I know it's redundant, but until they start sucking or doing something different that I can afford different commentary, this is what you people get, because they're just doing everything right now. So, there you go. Anything you want to say about the segment, or can we move on?
It was just gold. I love it. I love how much you love it, almost more than I love the segment itself.
That's amazing. All right, well, on that note, what came after this, brother?
The main event, Hernandez versus King Cuerno versus Cage versus Drago for a shot at Lucha Underground title at Ultima Lucha.
What did you think of this match, man?
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, John. I enjoyed the match, but I felt like Drago winning was extremely obvious, and they forced it a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like you had similar criticisms on the first viewing.
I probably did, but I don't remember, so let's just talk about it again anyway.
Yeah, well, no, that's why I asked, because I want to know if it changed, because I think I remember you. And seeing me watching it again, I mean, I realized that they really were building to something, so I get why they didn't, but it kind of confused me at the time, like, why Hernandez didn't eat the pin, because, him and Drago had the gripe. But see, like, I think I can absolve them of this, because I agree with you on your points. It was very obvious. They really tried to build it up. But I can absolve it because of what we ended up getting anyway, and because of how Ultima Lucha was structured. That whole rant I just went on about having to fight for the spot, because we know Drago doesn't keep it. So, really, this wasn't even about Drago getting to the main event of Ultima Lucha. It was just really about him getting his job back, about getting able to be back in the temple and take a pound of flesh from Hernandez. Oh. So, in hindsight, what would have seemed like a fault at the time, like, oh man, this was so obvious, you really forced it. No, they were waving at you with their left hand while punching you with the right, like they always do. I love it. Yeah. Gets the pin on Cuerno, obviously, again, after the mist, which I like that, too, because it protects Cuerno, because Drago's like, man, this is my rival. He's got my number. What do I do? Screw it. Psst, missed. And then just gets the pin. Yeah. Then the stare down with him and Puma. Great image. But let me ask you, Ajin, because I don't want to jump the gun. Did we get the cinematic ending that I think we did on this episode?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, and that makes it even better then. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, they did everything right here, even with the misgivings that like you had, which again I completely co-sign onto. I think they handled it just brilliantly.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff.
So let's get to the cinematic ending then. Catrino confronts Dario Cueto in his office. Do you want to take it from here?
Oh my God, Cueto got bitched out so bad. He got strangled with his own key. Dude, watching this segment again, like, I appreciate Katrina's calm demeanor because I feel like the most off putting killers are the ones that don't even recognize the wrongness of their acts
Yep.
or just that they're doing bad. And she's just calm and serene the whole time. What really does it for me, though, is the desperation of Cueto. Again, this is
Oh
what
my
makes him.
God, he is so good. Well, he's a freaking actor, so I would hope he would be good. But he's just amazing.
And that's just it. Like, any chance he has to diffuse tension on his end, he'll do it, whether it's giving Big Rick money or appealing to Johnny Mundo's ego or whatever. And here, like, he's in dire straits. He is literally being strangled.
Yeah.
Whatever. And that's happening. And he's just thinking, oh, wait, no, I misunderstood. I didn't think Mil Muertes wanted the title. And then Katrina explains, like, you fool. Don't you understand that any being, mortal or immortal, they crave power? Why are you in his way? And I love that that was her line of thinking. Like, Cueto, this isn't like managerial incompetence. No, you're deliberately in Mil Muertes' way. No, I'm not. No, well, here's what we'll do. In 2 weeks, we'll do Mil Muertes and we'll do Drago, and the winner of that match gets to face the champion at the Ultimate Lucha. And then Katrina's just like, you've done well, but remember, whatever monster you're hiding in that cage is no match for Mil Muertes. And he has this look on his face like, oh my God, what did I do in this devil? But the
Dude,
beauty,
I am telling you, the main event of Ultima Lucha Season 2 is going to be Mil Muertes versus Matanza for the title.
dude, and if it is, like, if it's announced, first of all, I'm officially calling you Nostradamus from that point forward. And second of
They've
all,
been building up to it this whole freaking
you,
time.
you know something is going to happen with all these forces. I don't know if it's exactly as you conceive of it with an Ultimate Lucha main event, but you and I completely agree, and we've talked about this. Something is going to happen with these forces. But here's the thing that I have to appreciate, and this is what makes Lucha Underground so good, because I think in any other context, even knowing that Dario's a heel, knowing that his life was about to end by these people, may be cause for some sympathy until you remember that he brought them in the first place. So it goes back to that phrase, you made your bed, now you lie in it. This is Cueto lying in his bed.
Okay,
Because,
John, do you remember episode 5? Episode 5, Mil and Katrina were chilling out in the hallway, and Cueto showed up, and Katrina tells him that they know the darkness he's trying to hide.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then the next time that she confronted him in his office, um, there was another. She grabbed the key. That's what it was. She reached down to try and grab the key, and Cueto was like freaking out about it. And then now we have this, and she strangles him with the key, and again goes out of her way to bring up Matanza. I love the storytelling happening right now because the one where she grabbed the key, that was just a few weeks ago. That was just her trying to get Mill versus Phoenix in a death match. That was, I
right.
mean, that was pretty much just a few weeks ago. So I love so much that they've been building and building and building, and it's been subtle at times and a little bit more hammer over the head other times, but they are clearly building to some kind of confrontation between Mil Muertes and Matanza Cueto.
Dude, can you imagine? Let's go with your hypothetical, right? That it's going to be the Ultima Lucha Season 2 main event. And how great does it feel to say that and know that it's going to happen?
Yeah.
Feels pretty freaking amazing.
Yes.
And that's just the first time we see Matanza like in full. How crazy would that be if they like built it up and you're finally going to get to see this
And I
behemoth?
think what's amazing about it too is that Mil Muertes is portrayed as this giant killer. He's only about 6'1", so they don't
Right.
need to go out and get a 7-footer to play Matanza. If they get someone that's like 6'4", 6'5", they will make Mil Muertes look small.
Exactly, and if they book him in a similar vein to the Emil Muerteses and then the Hernandezes, which you know
Yeah,
they had him eat a man's face,
right.
like that's just done
That's
already.
his finisher, John. He eats your face to beat you.
Oh my God! Yeah, so Katrina has the leg, and Bale, he was the first victim, and then Matunza's just like leg. No, I just eat everything. Like
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
you use your tongue, I use my teeth.
exactly. Dude, that would be such an epic main. Oh my God, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole because I feel like that's another conversation for another day. But you know that something is happening here, and I love it. I love how they just tease out a little bit each episode, dude. This is television at its finest. It doesn't give away too much too soon. But I don't think it holds on too long either to the point where you get disinterested. I feel like it gives you the right amount of stuff at the right time.
Yep.
And it's fantastic.
I love this company so much.
I do too, dude. It's amazing.
Well, that was the end of episode 31. So, ladies and gentlemen, we did watch episode 32, but I want you all to know that we don't really have a ton to say about it because it was all night long. If you want to know what we thought about this match, go back and just check out our live reactions to it because we had so much fun.
You know you want to hear me get high pitched, people. You know you want to hear that happen. You may think that you don't, but you do.
I
So
love
go
that that's
back.
become a selling point of this channel.
Dude, I am, and let me just say too, because this seems like the most appropriate place to do it. I just want to thank everybody that appreciates my markouts, because there are times like I'll like reflect back and I'll be subdued and I'll be like, should I have gone that far? Is that going to be embarrassing? But you guys are so receptive of me and my freakouts, and that just means the world to me. So I just wanted to thank everybody, and I promise you, if things go my way, season 2, it's going to get even worse in the best possible way. The police might be called. I don't know. I've had concerns.
Why do you
But
say that?
yeah.
What do you think is going to happen in season 2 that would cause that?
Well, I mean, if Mundo would get in the title picture or win the Gift of the Gods season 2, one of those things where he'd be in a really good position or be in a really good field. I mean, I'm just going to freak out all things Mundo. I mean, let's be honest here.
Right.
And it's going to be a fun ride. It's just going to be amazing. And I'm just glad that you guys just enjoy me enjoying this. So, yeah, go back and watch it, relive all the memories all over again. I think I even did an evil laugh in there. It was pretty good. It was like a 6.5. I could have done better. But yeah, just go back and just enjoy yourselves, guys, because this was an amazing match, and that's the commentary you should be listening to if you want our thoughts on it. So,
I'm going to go ahead and say it though, John. I feel like this was more of an amazing experience than it was an amazing match.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I wouldn't have put this in a match of the year candidate list, but it was just so much fun to watch.
Oh my God, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think just watching it with you, and we have that camaraderie where I know we're big Mundo fans and Puma fans, to be fair. And just the whole way it was done, it was such a great experience. To your point, yeah, guys, I may even go back and watch it again, sometime before season 2, just to think about what me and Ashton will create for season 2, because it's going to be epic. And yeah, just great stuff.
And just to be clear, for season 2, it's a mistake that I wish I could take back for season 1, but we're not making it again in season 2. We're live reacting to Aztec Warfare.
Oh, you know it, man. Well, now we know to anticipate it, though, so it's all good, man.
Yeah, and if
It's
things
yeah,
go as planned, it's probably going to be in the first week or 2 of March.
yeah, man. It's gonna be great. I can't. Oh my God, season 2 is gonna be so good. Uh, yeah, man. I got nothing else to say, man. So you can close us out if you want.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it has been fun. We are absolutely loving Lucha Underground, even the second time around. This show is incredible. This company is incredible. The people writing it are incredible. Season 2 is going to be incredible. I don't even know if it's worth doing hashtag Netflix needs Lucha anymore because I don't know what kind of deal they got to go through for them to have a season 2 locked up, but might as well. I mean, it can't do any harm. Might as well just toss it out there. Lucha, hashtag Netflix needs Lucha, but mostly just hashtag Lucha season 2. I even changed that on the background from Netflix needs Lucha to Lucha season 2 because that's what the real hype is right now is Lucha Underground season 2 starting in 2016. Hopefully as early as possible. First week in January, please. We will talk to you guys for if you're on the channel just because you like everything we put out. We'll see you all for our NXT Twitwow tonight after NXT. Should be up around 10:30 p.m. EST. Otherwise, if you're only here for the Lucha rewatch and the Lucha Underground content, we will see you next week where we will have watched episodes 33 through 36. Only 1 week after that, and we'll get to rewatch Ultima Lucha. It's going to be awesome. We will see you guys for whatever you are most interested in watching next from us. But no, NXT is also next up on the channel, so we'll see you all for that.